in that they can hear. So, okay, does that all make sense? Okay, now, when you come back here, I'm going to talk about the function of the board and how it operates. Very simply, there are different inputs on the stage. There are some floor pockets. If you haven't had a chance to see those, they are numbered in the pockets. And so you're going to have those things. They come back and they are plugged into the board. Now, you have really two sets of controls. You have a master, which is the red knob, which is the overall volume. So if I could have everything up to where it needs to be, but if I have the main down, the main system is going to be shut down. So that is think of that as the accelerator on your car. That's going to determine how fast you go. The different channels are going to dictate how much of that particular microphone, keyboard, guitar, whatever CD player, computer, that's going to dictate how much is going into that mix. Now, I'm going to do some overview things here before we get into specifics. The board is set up to basically function where you're typically going to be up close to a 0. Now, when you get a moment, and we're going to stop, and I want everyone to come up, and we're going to make sure everyone understands where 0 is, and so forth. You typically, I'm going to use these two knobs. Here's what some people think: if I go beyond down here, then I'm going to be too loud. The board is set up to function up like this, and the reason for that is this. I have some gains, and gains are like a funnel. And the bigger I open the funnel, the more stuff I capture. Well, the more stuff I capture, the greater the chance of feedback. See, so I want this gain to be really tight. I want my funnel to be pretty precise. Well, if I drag this up and I'm forced to move my volume down here, two things happen. First of all, I pick up a lot of junk that's going to cause feedback. Second of all, this is designed that as I move up the fader, I've got better control at the top end of the fader. It's an eccentric. So I have better control up here than I have down here. For example, if I drive my gain way up, I can move this just a fraction and the volume will jump pretty significantly. Where if I turn my gain back and I get up here, now I can move it in a greater distance and it doesn't affect it as quickly, which means I have finer control, which is what I want. I want to be able to actually manage it very carefully without having to be down here. I can always tell. I'll get calls from churches that'll say, we're having a lot of feedback issues, we just can't manage anything, and I'll come over and first thing I do is look at the board, and I look at three things. Where's the master, where are the channels, and where are the gains? Usually, about 90% of the time, the gains are way overdriven, and they're down here at the very end of it, and all I do is I start backing out the gains, moving the faders up, and they go, oh, it sounds better. It's easier to, and by the way, it does. And I was showing, when we put the whole system in, we were going through that, and when I do training, I'll usually show the difference of running the gain up versus flipping around, and it makes a significant difference in the quality. So, it's really designed to play right up here in the top end. The master is designed to play up in the top end. We have headroom, so you've got room to, my wife hates this illustration, but I'm going to give it to you. I set up a board, and most people who do this for a living and understand how boards work, I want the board to set up that if I killed over and pushed every fader all the way up to the maximum, it would be loud, but it would never feed back. Okay? That is the rule, because if I drove this all the way up, it'll be loud. It'll be louder than you want it to be, but it should never feed back. So that's kind of the rule of why, if you look at this versus, let's say you go to another church somewhere and they don't understand this, and they've got it all inverted, I guarantee you the quality of their sound won't be as good as what you get.
So that means that in the front one is the primary control, then the bottom one the secondary control.
Well, this is the gain. It's actually, its function's different, not volume. think of it as this guy up here is the funnel. That's what's capturing the sound. So you want this to be as tight as you can get with a good signal without being too wide. It does increase the volume, but it's also increasing the junk that you capture, so it's a bigger net. So it's really the function of a fader versus the gain is actually different. Think of it as sensitivity, not volume.
Okay.
This is really volume. This is like the transmission, this is the engine. You know, you can, yes ma'am.
So you call these things, you call
These
fader?
are fader,
Why is it
F-A-D.
fader?
I'm not the guy that came up with fade. It fades in and out. It's slider.
But this is for the more minor volume.
Well, it's the volume on this channel.
It's generally what you're going to change, because we've kind of set up the gains so that they're relatively optimum, so that you shouldn't ever have to touch it, unless we put something new in.
Yeah, if you changed the microphone, if you put someone somewhere, but I want you to understand, so if you reach up and start turning knobs, what you're doing is going to affect the quality of the sound. With this particular board, now I want to talk about some of the functionality of this board. And before I go any farther, I want you to be able to identify a couple of things, and I'm going to let everyone come by and make sure they see it, and then I'm going to go on, okay? I want you to understand there are the fader, where the fader is. There is also a button that says on. That is like a mute button or an on button. If it's not on, even though you've got the microphone working, if it's not on, it's not going to go through the board, okay? They do that so that you can control what's on and what's not, okay? So if I'm using mic number 1 and I say I'm hearing it, or they're talking, I'm seeing a signal, but I'm not getting anything, it's because it's not been turned on, okay? So the on-off button, there's also right above it a select button. This is a digital console. What a digital console does is it gives us 16 faders, but it gives us a whole lot of stuff that we can do on each channel, but there's not enough room for it. If we had everything with a single knob to do everything we have in this board, it would be from here to the stage. Because we have all kinds of features that are built into this. So what it does, when you have the green button, if you notice, if I select the button on a channel, it moves, the light moves, and I am now working up here on that channel, okay? So think of it as a page. If I'm working on a Word document, or if I'm working on something you're familiar with, think of where you go from file cabinet to file cabinet, or folder to folder, or page to page. Or I've got an Excel spreadsheet, and I've got multiple sheets, and they all have the same thing though, except they're multiple, so I can do this on this one, and this on this one, and so forth. That's what this select button lets me do. So if I'm making an adjustment, and we've tried to set this up so that you're by far, most of the time, aren't going to have to be doing much of that. That's why we went this route. We went this route so that a lot of that could be saved, and you could not have to get into it. But I want you to understand what they do, because here's what's going to happen. If I'm having problems with the microphone, and I happen to have this one selected but not this one, and I start doing things, I'm not working on this one. I'm working on something else, okay? So I want you to at least understand the concept of the board, how it works.
So you mean if I want to adjust either the sensitivity or the volume, this has to be on?
Correct, for that channel to get in here.
Not
Okay,
if,
but this doesn't have to
not
be
now if you're doing the physical knob.
He said the gain.
gain.
He said the gain or the volume
Right.
is on the channel.
It doesn't matter if the light's on or not.
Yeah. It's only when you get into the inside. So I want you to be able to identify the on-off and the select button, just so you know where it is. And I want you to see the gain. So if you'll just kind of walk around so that,
Move to where you are.
What is the solo and on for here?
okay. The solo button is if I had a set of headphones on, I could press the solo button and just listen to that channel. So let's say, for example, I'm going to, did everyone get a chance to see? I want to make sure everybody saw, and then we'll jump on that. Okay. The solo button lets you, if you have a set of headphones in here, it's like eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, there's a little humor there. You know, when Adam and Eve took a bite and then all of a sudden they saw a lot of things they didn't see before. If I have a set of headphones on and I'm hearing something that I don't like, I'm going, what is that? Or who is that? Or what is that? And I press that button on my headphones, I'm going to hear that channel. I'm going to hear just that microphone. So it's going to let me hear that. Now, once you hear things and you identify them, it's very hard to get that out of your head. So if you have someone who sings terrible and you find it, you may start to pull them down because you don't want them to come through your sound system.
Wow.
That's what I was talking about. If you put a set of headphones on and you solo a channel, you're going to hear just that channel. Or if you solo multiple channels, you're going to hear them. I'm glad somebody finally got my humor there.
So you could like hear just the two voices.
Correct.
Not all the other
Correct.
instruments. But that doesn't affect anything.
Doesn't
here.
affect anything out
Only
here.
the headphones.
Just the headphones. That's why I say it gives you the opportunity to hear like you don't hear any other way because
That's only for the person control the AV.
back here.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. It doesn't, you won't hear a click, you won't, nobody, you've got a volume knob over here for the headphones so you can turn the volume up and down. It does not affect what's going on. The best use of the solo button is if I'm hearing someone and I'm trying to figure out, okay, they're too loud, somebody's too loud, but I don't know who it is. So I could go bump, 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 until I find them. Then I could pull them down. It's a tool to let you, in the studio, we use it a lot to isolate a particular channel or multiple channels. So if you press all of those across there, you're going to hear all of those. If you don't have anything pressed, you're hearing what is coming off the main. Okay? Now, someone asked me about the on, that also turns the channel on to the mains. So that's, again, all of the on buttons do the same thing. They activate whatever that is and makes the sound go through them
So
out to
in
the
other words,
speakers.
if you turn off this, there is no sound.
Should be no sound to the
Whatever.
mains, to
Just
the
what-
mains. You
what
would
is-
still have floor monitors.
What is